look at where we are on the schedule, it's highlighted in orange. That's where we are right now.
Good. Thank you.
So basically, the schedule is what it is, and it's been updated to where we are this evening and moving forward. And we're, since the last time we met, we've put in an application for CPA funding, working with the town planner, and we're approved application 1 on it, and we're in step 2 of application, which will be reviewed in the next month. Along with that, we've been exploring different kinds of financing and funding available for grants and loans for the project through USDA, through CDAC, and through and Mass Development, right? And this is where we are with the project. As far as there's another interesting application that we have to work with, and I've been working with Chris on this. It's Massachusetts Preservation Project Fund. It's an emergency fund application, which I'm asking the board this evening to give me a letter of recommendation that we move forward, and we could use that in our application to get up to about $75,000 to do the roof repair. It's through the Secretary Galvin's office, and I've been in contact with them along with MHC.
Yeah, so just, I mean, kind of where we stand, because we're getting, you know, in January, we'll be sort of closing out the year. We'll be meeting Bill, and when I've been in town, we've been able to meet with Jennifer and Chris on a regular basis with updates and discussing sort of moving forward. So there's been, I mean, to be fair, Gray House Partners, Bill as the principal and owner, has actually spent quite a bit of time this past year attending any number of kind of development conferences, making networks both at the local, state, and to some degree at the federal level through the USDA. So there's been a lot of if you will, research and exploration of funding sources, and now we're now at a point where we've identified something about 14 to 16 what we think of as viable funding sources, both that are grant or no cost to very patient capital or low cost to commercial loans, also through local banks. We've also done quite a lot of work in identifying tenants. We've been talking with a number of people. Of course, like anything, when we all went into this, you know, there was never going to be sort of a white knight coming in and saying, you know, we're taking over the school. It's got, you know, a 10%, you know, investment opportunity for some outsiders. So that was one of the reasons why we were interested, because it's our community. We're doing this out of our public kind of civic engagement. It's cost. We wanted to do this on behalf of the town at no cost to the town, and so now we've been able to identify a number of different sources. So, you know, once we get to the end of the project with a possible construct or some recommendations, the town is really going to have to, and its citizenry are going to have to make some decisions about how best to proceed with the sort of let's say funding options that are available. And we feel that you know, we've like I said, we've done the identification of the grants and funding sources. We developed and advanced preliminary designs. We've gotten in a number of different specialists or kind of subcontractors in different areas to actually
walk through the building,
to walk through the
give us
building, to do
preliminary
assessments of what it would take to do remediation and other types of updates to kind of maintain the building. So we feel that in the next
So the next step is basically we've been working to secure tenants. And we have someone very interested in impact entrepreneur, Lori Lane Zucker. I've been working with him and meeting with him, and he's very interested in the building, along with CHP. CHP is a community health program, and we've reached out to them and been ongoing dialogue and conversations on how to fund the project and how to help them raise capital so they could move forward on the project. And in the next week, or later this week or next week, we're on the agenda with Chris, the town planner, and Jennifer to come in and meet with them, give them a more detailed report on this.
Could you give a little bit more information about what Laura Lane Zucker is doing? I know the whole board
Yeah.
What's the
So,
history of that project?
yeah, the impact entrepreneur, so, the idea behind it is, he was one of the first founders of a B corporation, so, sort of this notion around sustainable businesses. And so for the last number of years, he's been working on his own, completely divorced from the initiative that we've had with the school, to establish some sort of a center of excellence around, kind of B corporation, which really is, a classification for businesses that look at environmental, social impact and are looking at, public good, kind of the sustainability goals. So, he has a fairly large network. I can't speak directly to his expertise or his networks per se, but we have had some fairly definitive and meaningful conversations with him, and he's been, like I said, separate from our efforts, also been kind of raising money and funding to support this kind of development of a center of excellence. And so it would be something that would encourage entrepreneurship in our area. It would also, in some ways, be very much in line with sort of the principles, a lot of why people live in this area. And in many ways, in sort of the tenants that we've looked at, we've tried very hard to find local. That's who's been interested, quite frankly. When you look at the town master plan, there are a number of different principles and intentions that are laid out for the redevelopment of the village of Housatonic. And so certainly the tenants that we've identified or have come forward to us certainly fit within that zeitgeist, is maybe not the right word, but
Right.
within those intentions.
And also, along with that, he's been in alliance with a company called Techstar, and they're looking to do an accelerator weekend. I think maybe Jeremy came and spoke with you guys a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So we're in alliance with that, and that's what Lori is doing with Techstar as a possible tenant.
So we've got, yeah,
I
sorry.
was gonna add too is that one of the earlier directions from the select board years back was to look at how the Housatonic School can be an anchor to help nurture and grow entrepreneurial businesses, not just potentially in the Housatonic School, but to populate the mills and to use some of the vacant space around there. We were not getting the type of interest in the building that was gonna be attracting a big
Mhm.
company to come in. But we wanted to support the local businesses. So these things take time, but we
Yep.
do see a little synergy there
Mhm.
with the grant that was given
Yep.
for the
Studio for
studio,
integrated craft.
right, and then other interested different businesses in those mill buildings, and then with the type of resources using the Housatonic School's office space. I think you're really setting the groundwork for things to come together. They take a lot of time, they take a lot of things falling into place at the right moment, a little bit of luck, but just that level of perseverance is I think it's really going to come together.
And we've
So-
identified, like I said, some what we think are some really truly viable pockets of money, if you will,
Mhm.
that's free money, that no matter how the school goes forward, this is all information and, let's say, intelligence that the town now has of really where we've been able to hone in on spending a lot of time, if you will, faffing about, talking to a whole lot of people, to really kind of narrow it down to where the most viable things will be for this project. But some of that funding will depend on the actual construct of the, will it be a private-public partnership? What is the ownership structure of the town toward the building versus
So
private, et
That's
cetera?
my question,
Yeah.
because there's a heading here that says public-private partnership, Great Barrington retains ownership, is that a decision?
No, not
No.
yet.
No.
That's where we're headed to in the next and final stages
Yeah.
of this
And
program.
I'm also probably asking this too soon, but ongoing operating expenses versus costs,
Yep, that's all.
positive or negative, we don't know yet.
Yeah.
In the next step of this, which will be in the next
Wait.
60 days.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
some of this, to be fair, we're not coming probably with a silver bullet. I think we had hoped, a year ago at this time, that we would be able to come to you guys in a year and say definitively this is the right structure. I think some of it, just to give a bit of a preview, is gonna depend a little bit on what is available, let's say legislatively, sort of regulatory from a private-public partnership in terms of what that holding looks like, in terms of, if it was to go wholly private, if that was even an option, whether or not some of these funding sources are even available for that. level, that construct of an ownership, and therefore, does that make no sense to do it versus all the way to the town running it? So we're trying to find that, you
That
know,
balance.
that public-private partnership is still there, and some of that will depend on sort of, some of the questions that we will need to discuss with Chris and Jennifer in more detail, which is what are the legal and regulatory and other aspects of building out this type of a project. So we've honed in on some really good questions now that we can talk specifically about with the town.
I'll give you a small thank you for all your work, and a bigger one later when we come back to the positive number.
So in order to make the motion, what is the exact grant that you want us to endorse?
I'm gonna go through this with Chris, and basically, it's a support letter from the select board for the Massachusetts Preservation Project Fund Emergency Fund through Secretary Galvin's office.
This is to deal with the.
So basically,
Wait,
it's a
Yeah.
support letter.
Yeah.
Move that we write that support letter.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Sign
Thank
it too.
Yes.